It started with a single video uploaded to YouTube. Laura Lynn, a broadcaster who asks tough questions, hosted a guest who spoke with slow calm but heavy meaning. The guest told a story about missing documents, conflicting timelines, and people who would not answer the hard questions. Every detail landed like a soft blow, then came the next detail, and the pattern made viewers uneasy. People who watched felt the same cold in their chest when the guest named dates and described odd delays. The guest answered with specifics that did not match the public story. That mismatch is what made the clip dangerous to some and vital to others. Groups that normally shared prayers and church news began to discuss it. Some called it a brave act of truth. The argument split people into sides almost overnight. Then the pressure came from inside the circle the clip discussed. People close to the subject said the interview was causing pain and confusion. They said the story hurt families and could damage reputations built over years. Someone at the top decided action was needed. That someone was Joni Lamb. Those near her say she felt the interview threatened everything she wanted to protect. Calls were made. Messages were sent. People were told to get the video down. The instruction was not gentle. It was urgent and clear: remove the interview now. But the online world is not like a closed room. Once a video is seen, viewers save it, copy it, and move it across platforms. A removal order can make a story spread faster. People who see pressure to silence a voice often want to hear the voice more. The effort to erase the clip only pushed it wider. The public saw the attempt and asked why a video must be suppressed. Some defended Joni, saying she had the right to protect people she loved. Others saw the move as a sign that something important was being hidden. Reporters began to ask questions outside typical channels. More viewers tuned in out of curiosity and concern. The fight became the news, not just the interview. Now people watch the battle, watching how a platform, a broadcaster, and a powerful figure reacted. The story grew from one interview into a week of headlines and talk shows. Old posts were read again. Messages and statements that once seemed routine were scrutinized. New claims surfaced that did not fit the official account. People felt the weight of confusion and the need for clarity. Laura Lynn stood firm and said her guests spoke freely and that viewers should decide. Her supporters said removing the video would be an attack on openness. Joni's team said the video spread unverified claims and caused real harm. The debate was loud and public. It raised questions about who controls information when public opinion can be shaped by a single clip. It raised questions about power and responsibility in the digital age. For many, it was a lesson in how fragile trust can be. Ordinary people watched the story move from private worry to public crisis. Families talked quietly in living rooms while posts and headlines rolled across screens. Some felt betrayed by the claims they heard. Others felt relief that questions were finally in the open. The online argument had real consequences for real people. After the attempted removal, more people looked for proof. They searched old statements and public records. Some discovered posts and messages that made them ask harder questions. The attempt to silence the clip had become the reason people dug deeper. With every new post, the story widened and made more people pay attention. The moment showed how a single decision can change a story's path completely. As the days passed, the scene shifted and new voices joined the debate. Experts and commentators weighed in. People who do not usually follow these stories began to listen. Many asked whether the truth would come out and whether more evidence would appear. Would more witnesses speak? Would new clips surface? Would the platform act, or would it let the content remain? People watched statements from both sides carefully. Some waited for proof that matched the original claims. Others waited for withdrawal or apology. The story tested trust on every side. Those who supported Laura said her duty was to bring hidden things to light. Those who supported Joni said protecting people from harm was also a duty. The middle ground was hard to find. The video had touched nerves and memories. It had made people question long-held assumptions. And it had shown how quickly attention can move from a local story to a national conversation. For viewers, the story became about truth, power, and how the internet amplifies both. They wanted answers, and they wanted fairness. Above all, they wanted to know what really happened. As they watched, the tension grew. People felt the pull to follow every update. The clip became more than a video. It became a public test of values. In the struggle between a broadcaster's right to ask and a public figure's wish to protect, the audience watched and chose sides. That choice would shape what happened next. People were not simply passing time, they were deciding what to believe and who to trust. And while the debate continued online, real people faced real pain behind closed doors. The story was no longer only about a clip on a screen. It was about how power meets the public in an age where every moment can be recorded and shared. Someone somewhere was trying to hold fast to control. Others were trying to pry open what they believed had been closed. The result was a long public conversation that started with a single interview. It was a reminder that in a connected world, silence is rarely quiet and attempts to hide truth are often the spark for deeper attention. The fight over that video would continue to shape how people saw the names involved and how they judged what came next. The fight did not calm down with time. In fact, it only grew louder. Joni Lamb's push to have Laura Lynn's interview removed had created a new wave of attention. People who had never even heard of the video now wanted to see it. The question hanging in the air was simple. If nothing in the interview mattered, why work so hard to erase it? That question refused to go away. Inside private rooms, tension was heavy. People whispered about damage control. Calls were made to lawyers. Statements were drafted, then pulled back, then rewritten. Nobody seemed sure how to move forward without making the storm bigger. Some wanted to ignore the whole thing. Others said ignoring it would make it worse. And still, the interview stayed online, bouncing from one platform to another. Viewers noticed every move. They saw when clips vanished from certain pages. They noticed when posts were suddenly gone. Screenshots filled the gaps. Mirror uploads kept showing up. Each removal attempt fed the sense that something important was being hidden. Trust began to slip, not only in Joni but in the largest system around her. Meanwhile, Laura Lynn's audience grew. People admired her courage to hold her ground. She said the interview mattered, because the truth matters. That statement struck a chord. She had not expected this level of controversy, but she stood by her guest. Every time Joni pushed harder, Laura Lynn's voice carried further. The clash was drawing lines in the sand, and people were picking sides with passion. It was no longer just a fight about one video. It became a fight about control, freedom, and the right to question those in power. Churches were split. Families argued at dinner tables. Online debates grew so heated that friends unfollowed each other. One video had sparked a national argument, and at the center of it all were two women with very different views of what should happen. For Joni Lamb, the fear was not only about reputation. It was about legacy. She had spent years building a platform that reached millions. A single interview, if left unchecked, could undo what she saw as decades of work. To her, this was not gossip. It was a direct threat to the story she had fought to protect. Those who know her say she believed silence was safer than scandal, even if it meant forcefully removing a voice. But that belief clashed with the internet's reality. In this digital age, silencing one clip often makes it immortal. By the end of the week, more than 500,000 people had watched some version of the interview. Some had only seen fragments, others the full video, but the impact was undeniable. What might have faded quietly had now turned into a headline followed by thousands of comments. Journalists picked it up next. News outlets outside the faith world began reporting on the story. Suddenly, it wasn't just about Laura Lynn and Joni Lamb. It was about censorship, about freedom of speech, about whether public figures could or should control how they are portrayed. Experts weighed in. Lawyers spoke about rights. Pastors preached sermons, warning about the dangers of half-truths. The debate spread beyond the internet and into real pulpits, classrooms, and community halls. Everywhere you looked, people asked, was Joni protecting people from lies, or was she hiding the truth? That single question cut deep into the heart of the controversy. And no one had a clear answer. Behind the scenes, there were rumors of more content. Whispers said Laura Lynn had not released the full recording. Others said she had more guests lined up to talk about related issues. That fueled speculation even further. What if more was coming? What if the interview was just the beginning? The idea of a larger series terrified some and thrilled others. Joni Lamb's team worked overtime. They tried to calm supporters. They reminded people of her years of service and leadership. They framed the interview as reckless and harmful. Yet the harder they worked, the stronger the opposition grew. For many viewers, the attempt to control the narrative became the story itself. They were no longer debating the original claims, they were debating why Joni wanted them erased. Laura Lynn, for her part, played it carefully. She did not attack Joni personally. She simply kept repeating that her role was to give space for open conversation. That simple defense won her more supporters. In a world where people feel voices are silenced too often, Laura Lynn became a symbol of resistance, whether she wanted that role or not. And still, the questions burned. What was in the interview that shook Joni Lamb so deeply? Was it a fear of exposure? Was it a defense of loved ones? Or was it about protecting an empire built over years of trust? The public wrestled with those questions, and each person answered differently. Some defended her, saying any good leader must push back against lies. Others condemned her, saying no one should fear honest questions if there is nothing to hide. The controversy stretched on. It was not just a spark anymore. It had become a fire that refused to die. And for every new attempt to stamp it out, the flames grew higher. People realized they were watching a struggle bigger than just one broadcaster and one leader. They were watching how truth and power collide in a world where every voice can be recorded, shared, and spread across the globe in seconds. By the end of the second week, it was clear this was not going away. The interview, in one form or another, would always exist. The arguments around it would echo for months, maybe even years. And Joni Lamb's choice to push for its removal had turned into a defining moment. A moment that would shape how people remembered her leadership and how they judged the balance between protection and transparency. For the audience, it became something personal. It forced them to ask hard questions. Do we believe what we are told, or do we demand to see everything ourselves? Do we trust leaders to guard us from harm, or do we trust our own eyes and ears? The interview was more than content. It was a mirror held up to a community, showing both its divisions and its hunger for truth. And as the storm continued, one truth became clear. No matter how powerful the voice calling for silence, once the people have heard something, they will not easily forget.